It's interesting. Looking back, I now realise that Hard to Swallow was as important a milestone in my writing career, I guess, as Too Much Punch for Judy. And it left a number of legacies. One was the first play that I'd written that was successful. And it went on to be republished some long while later by DBDA, now Zinc Publications. And they've had huge success with that. And I can remember when they took it on, they said it's probably sold all the copies that it ever can. But they've had good success with that, probably as much as Too Much Punch for Judy, if not more. I'm not sure, but probably. One of the other legacies was that performance at the National Theatre, hugely important for two reasons. One, Ginny Spooner came to see it, who was, I think then, a drama teacher. I didn't hear about her seeing it on that evening, but she ended up becoming a very senior examiner at Edexcel, and I think through her having seen that one performance, the play became noticed by drama teachers. Quite unbelievable. And also the agency who were involved in creating the film of Hard to Swallow, the Catherine TV programme, came to see the performance on that evening at the National Theatre because they'd kind of licensed it. And it was as a result of that evening that MBA Literary Agents, Meg Davis, was my original agent there, took me on as a writer, and I had applied to agents before and they certainly weren't interested. So it created a huge change for me. And the other big change was the introduction of these two guys into my life, Stephen Pearce and Adrian New, who ran, and that's a lovely theatre at Oaklands, and what an amazing theatre that was, and what wonderful life that saw. And I came across them through the NSDF, and I hadn't had success with the NSDF, but Too Much Punch had been shortlisted. We didn't enter Hard to Swallow, but Stephen had some contact with the NSDF and Clive Wolfe, who was the organiser of it. And he was wanting to make contacts in the Southampton area as he was leaving university. And Clive said, oh, there's this guy called Mark Wheeler who runs a youth theatre down there. And he put Stephen in contact with me. And having had the success that I'd had at Epping with the relationship between Touchstone and St John's School, I was super keen to use Steve's idea, which was a new theatre company, and to have them in our school using the model that Touchstone had made. They would use the school buildings to rehearse in, and we would have free workshops. It was a fantastic resource to have for free on our doorstep. In fact, around the back of the theatre, they occupied a dressing room, a very dark and dingy dressing room, but they had that as their office. And we had the resource of just being able to nip out and say, do you fancy coming and seeing this group who are doing this, or a little bit of help? It was a fantastic win-win situation for us. And I don't know how it came about, but I think when we first met, we were just about to take Hard to Swallow. It had been very successful, and we were about to take it and Too Much Punch for Judy to the USA, to Houston. And I kind of probably said to Steve, feeling a bit cheeky, why don't you tour Hard to Swallow? It's created a bit of a reputation, and why not? He said yes, so brilliant. I was absolutely delighted that it would go on tour. So there we are, Hard to Swallow, going on tour. Whilst we were away in America, this happened, and this is from the book. Adrian wrote a chapter about the first professional production, which was in 1990, just as Oakland's Youth Theatre finished. So this is Adrian talking. We advertised for 4 actors and sent letters to about 300 schools across the UK. About 300 actors sent in their CVs and just 4 schools wrote back. Recruitment and booking a tour were both bigger challenges than we had anticipated. Our intention was to rehearse from mid-August to mid-September and tour thereafter. At the start of the summer holidays, we did have our cast, but only a handful of bookings from October onwards. The gap was fortunate, as our inexperience led to us casting some really unsuitable people who didn't like the script, thanks, or our ideas for performing it. At the end of the first week of rehearsal, there was mutiny, and 2 of the 4 said they wouldn't be coming back. Back to the drawing board. Rehearsals on hold. New auditions organised. This time we ended up with a team we could work with. Joanne Corser, Annette Joyce, Kate Pendry and Roland Taylor, with Stephen completing the cast as well as directing, and me taking on stage management and administration duties. So when we came back, we had a performance very shortly afterwards, where I can remember most of the cast and myself went to. You can see it's on Monday, October the 8th. And I remember going to the performance and noticing that most of the bits they'd used were the bits that were kind of what I call traditional theatre, and it didn't look like one of my plays. And what I gather had happened, I hadn't been involved at all, was that they didn't really get the kind of more stylistic scenes, so like the Brussels sprout scene went, I think. It was a very, very different production to the one that I would have wanted to put out, and probably, I think in retrospect, the one that they wanted to put out. They took it on tour. Oh, and my mum came to see it. I was very proud to see it, and I was happy for whatever was going to go out was going to go out. It had my name attached to it. It was good for me, so there was certainly no problem with it. But my mum, I can remember asking her what she had thought of it, and her one comment, she went on and on about it, was that Catherine's dress hadn't been ironed properly, and that was the really big thing. It went out on tour. It had a great review from Mick Martin in the Times Educational Supplement. Described it as direct and intense production. Joanne Corser played Catherine with persuasive conviction, and the harrowing conclusion was greeted by a stunned silence and tears from the 4th and 5th formers who I viewed it with. So, I really, it worked. It worked. And the relationship, I was saying, what I was heading to say was that the legacy of this production was the relationship that I ended up having with Stephen and Adrian and Stopwatch Theatre Company, who later went on to, and much more about this later, to tour incredibly successfully my production of Chicken, Arson About, and latterly I Love You Mum, I Promise I Won't Die. And in those productions they really did have a fantastic knowledge of how to do a Wheeler play, and they've done some of the best productions that there have ever been of them. It was also great for the youth theatre. So from that cast of Hard to Swallow, Stopwatch gave Sarah Blackman employment, using her in Chicken. Gary Richards from Hard to Swallow as well, and Donna Batt. Also, I think both of them were in Chicken. Maybe Donna was in one of the other productions. But later on, throughout time, Stopwatch were a fantastic resource for using the actors and giving them opportunities in the professional world that obviously I couldn't. And our relationship remains to this day. I met up with Stephen and Adrian. I meet up with Adrian often. We had a lovely little meeting between Steve and Adrian and myself last summer when we were allowed to meet people. And I'm regularly in contact with Adrian, who has until very recently been touring. So that a career-lasting touring relationship with I Love You Mum, which Adrian has just retired from. But thanks to Hard to Swallow for the legacy of a fantastic relationship with a wonderful company.